place where wrestlers without figures go who would not have a match in figure form. Here we'll discuss who and the likeness of them will ever be getting out of here. But how will we determine who might get out of the void? These key factors: presentability, appeal, and desirability. Would it make a good addition to your wrestling collection? Is there a desire? Did they ever make any history in wrestling? And can a collector truly live without them? Let's find out who they are. Who is in the void? Leilani Kai, David Sammartino, Pedro Morales, Sam Houston, Jim Powers, Rugged Ronnie Garvin, Uncle Elmer, Velvet McIntyre, Little Tokyo, Pat Tanaka, Sato, Dink the Clown, Sapphire, Raymond Rougeau, Mo, Little Beaver, Lord Littlebrook, the Haiti Kid, Tama of the Islanders, Danny Spivey, and Koji Katao. We will start with Leilani Kai. She is a former WWF Women's Champion. She was at the 1st and 10th Women's WrestleManias. She is in the Hall of Fame. The likeliness of her getting an action figure, I would say, is likely to happen one day. It may not be right away, but someday soon. So I'm not going to do that the whole time, the voice, but point is, we're going to go over the discussion real fast. It's not going to be a very long video. There's a long list of names, but I'm not going to spend too much time with them. David Sammartino is the son of Hall of Famer Bruno Sammartino. I don't see anybody clamoring for him. I've stated that in a couple of my videos. He doesn't have any real physique look that is unique. I don't remember anything he really did. I know he was in WrestleMania 1. That's cool. But other than that, I just don't see him ever getting out of the void. Now, however, this person, Pedro Morales, he's a former WWF World Champion, the IC Champion, the Tag Team Champion. He's a Grand Slam winner. How we don't have a figure of him is criminal. I don't know if it's just he doesn't want to sign, or if he's even alive anymore. I don't know if they just don't see him as a big star, but yet you've got Ivan Koloff, you got Bruno Sammartino, you got Bob Backlund, you got Billy Graham. You need Pedro Morales. Of course, we're still missing Stan Stasiak, who was a very temporary champion, but if we want to create, recreate or have on our display shelves all the WWF World Champions of the past, we need Pedro Morales. It's him and just like I think Stan Stasiak are the only two really remaining. So hopefully, the chance of him getting out of the void one day, I see it being possible, whether through a third-party company maker or Mattel. Now we have Sam Houston. Now I know he's part of Robert's family. I know in the documentary he had drinking issues. He had an interesting look for that time, but it doesn't pop on the shelf. It doesn't really stand out to me. I do remember, I think he was in a Royal Rumble, didn't last very long. He didn't make really any contribution in the big scheme of things. So, we've gotten people like Red Rooster, but even Red Rooster had a very outlandishly ridiculous gimmick. Sam Houston was kind of just there. So to see him get an action figure, stranger things have happened, but I just don't see that being the case. Sorry. Next up is Jim Powers. Vaguely, I remember him a little bit. I think he was part of something else, but I guess if we needed a jobber, I don't remember him doing anything of note. I don't remember any tag belts. I don't remember any big feuds. He was just kind of there. I feel like he would have got a figure, during his time in the company if he was making some sort of impact. He's one of those guys who just, if Jakks Pacific had the license back then, he would have had a figure, just like the Gemini got a figure, because they were trying to make everybody. But I don't see Mattel dipping into the WWE's pockets going, hey, sign Jim Powers so we can make a figure of him. I don't see anybody really contacting him. Atom Bomb desirable, Sabu desirable, Dynamite Kid desirable, Dino Bravo. He was in quite a few WrestleManias. Jim Powers is in like one in a Battle Royal. So he's going to stay in the void. Uncle Elmer, same thing. I mean, we had Hillbilly Jim. There was a whole, I wouldn't say redneck or like that, but country boy type stable thing, and he was one of them. I know he was. I think his biggest thing was he got married to somebody on during one of the wrestling house shows or during one of the wrestling shows. Not much of a memory of him. I don't see him in any of the highlight packages. I just don't see him ever really getting a figure. He might, maybe FTC will reach out to him or his estate if he's still around and maybe consider it, but I just don't see him leaving the void. Rugged Ronnie Garvin. Now, this pains me to say it, but I don't see him leaving the void. Um, I mean, he is a former NWA champion, but there's also a lot of former NWA champions that never got an action figure. I mean, he did beat Ric Flair, but it was only so Ric could beat him and take the belt back to give people send people home happy during a certain show. He was basically not even a transitional champion. He was basically just there to boost ratings of, oh, can Ric Flair get the belt back? I mean, he was involved with Greg Hammer Valentine, um, entertaining, known for, doing those weird stomps on Frenchie Martin's face. But I just don't, I mean, he's got colorful attire, but I just don't see him ever really getting out of the void. Maybe in the future after FTC's needing some new people, but I don't see Uncensored really going, Uncensored line really wanting to pick him up. I don't see Mattel wanting to pick him up. AEW's not going to pick him up. Unless he becomes a road agent or something for him, but I just don't see that being the case. Velvet McIntyre, and I know, again, I'm not hating on the women. I already said Lonnie Kai will probably get out of the void. I don't see Velvet McIntyre getting out of the void. Very plain Jane look. I mean, Wendy Richter, didn't have the most appealing look back. Neither did back then, but at the same time, she was the first women's winner of WrestleMania 1, so there's definitely a history there. But Velvet McIntyre, if I remember correctly, she took on Fabulous Moolah, I think at WrestleMania 2, and the match was over really fast, no real standout moments. Wasn't involved, wasn't a valet, just really didn't have anything. Plus, I think she's been very spoken against Fabulous Moolah, which is not a problem. But I just don't see her really any desire to need her. I don't see anybody going, man, I wish I had a Velvet McIntyre, or I want to pay to have a customized Velvet McIntyre figure. So yeah, she's going to stay in the void. Now, I don't see any of the little guys getting made. The little people, little Tokyo, I just don't see it happening. Neither do I see Pat Tanaka ever getting out. I know the Orient Express is a tag team that did beat the Rockers at one point, but that's because I believe Shawn was injured or Marty was injured, so they were trying to put them as a legitimate threat towards the Rockers in the tag division, but it never took on. It wasn't long before I think this guy was even replaced with a different guy under a mask, Paul Simon or Paul Diamond or something like that. Some guy who was unknown basically. So I mean, really, the chance of them going and finding these guys, getting contracts from them to come make figures, or anybody for that general, they don't even have Japanese figures, and these two are supposed to be from Japan, and I just don't see them ever leaving the void. Same with Sato. I mean, I'm great wrestlers, but again, I'm not seeing anybody. I mean, I've seen some people customize or build some custom figures of them just in passing when they try to put everybody in the thing. Like I've seen people make really cool looking Hakushis, which I don't know if I'll ever see him, but I didn't think he ever wrestled at WrestleMania, but we'll find out in the future. But Sato, I just don't see the Orient Express ever getting figures. Now, Dink the Clown, though, we just unlocked the Doink the Clown Ultimate Edition with that backer. We've had countless Doink the Clowns. Jax made him. He was made in Hasbro. He was made in Mattel. I could see them making a Dink the Clown. They've made El Torito. They made Hornswoggle. I think it's just either the rights licensing issues going on, or maybe they're just waiting to pop out another look. I mean, obviously, it's the playability is not there. I mean, they're not going to match the same size. It's more of a little joke kind of thing. But if you want to make a Jerry the King Lawler versus Doink the Clown, you need Dink the Clown too. If you need Bam Bam Bigelow versus Doink the Clown, you need Dink the Clown, because that was around the time that he was messing with them. And right now, Mattel's on a big new gen kick, so maybe we might see this figure one day. I have a feeling that we'll see a Dink somewhere down the road. Now, Sapphire, I just don't see it happening. I mean, she was Dusty Rhodes' valet. It was a limited time kind of run thing. She wasn't a trained wrestler. She was in a WrestleMania match. she did the best she could for what she, was what with what kind of athletic skill she had. But I mean, hearing the stories about how she just hated the idea of leaving Dusty and didn't want to do the storyline, so they just fired her and said, "Oh, look, she's gone with the $1 Million Man." Um, I just don't see it being the case. I don't know if her estate's happy or if they even have her phone number anymore to contact her. Maybe someone might, reach out in the future and try to sign somebody. I've seen some, niche projects coming through. I mean, Alex Wright's going to get an FTC figure, and difference between Sapphire and Alex Wright was he was at WCW for quite a few years, whereas Sapphire was just around for like a cup of coffee in the big time. Yeah, as Macho Man would have put it. But she's standing in the void. Raymond Rougeau. Now this kind of unfortunately sucks because Mattel did announce a long time ago they were on the fan vote poll back when we got like Arn Anderson and Diamond Dallas Page and Andre, Matty Collector, I think it was. They were originally on there listed. There's rumors they were going to make a 2-pack of Raymond Rougeau and Jacques Rougeau, the Fabulous Rougeaus. And during the Legends startup of Mattel, I think there were rumors for like Series 2 or 3, and then of course low sales of those because everybody at the time still was into their Jakks Pacific and hell no, we won't go Mattel mentality. Then we saw the Mattel figures. We were like, okay, this is cool. We'll start trading them out. We'll start moving some of our Jakks away. We're going to keep our Jakks strong, But then of course Mattel didn't help with the Legends Series 1 making very offbeat attires. Like, okay, LOD was iconic for the Legion of Doom look, yet we got the NWA look, which is cool for some people, but for most of us, we got our LOD Jakks Pacific figures right there. Why are we going to go for an older, more generic looking basic look? 2, why does Animal look so freaking skinny and jacked? The dude was more of a bulky big guy. Of course, Sergeant Slaughter's AWA attire, and if you're an AWA fan, great, but most of us weren't. So unfortunately, it got shelved, and I'm hoping. I mean, they've got a cool attire, they got a cool look. They never won the tag belts, but they definitely are an '80s tag team that was fun to have. I mean, with obviously the Mountie situation never going to happen, I really wish they at least did the tag team with them because they went against the Hart Foundation. I mean, we need the Killer Bees. We need some more '80s tag teams. Not just Demolition. It wasn't just Demolition and the Nasty Boys. There was in the Hart Foundation, there was other people around. Now Mo from Man on a Mission, I feel like if we were going to get a Mo, we would have gotten around the time that they released a Mabel. The Mabel they sent out wasn't even from Tag Team Run. At this point, it was like Sir Mo and King Mabel. So maybe they just they have no desire. Maybe he has no desire to sign a deal with them. Nobody really clamors for it. I mean, I know he's made fun of on a show called OSW, and people kind of clown on a little bit. Nothing against the guy. I'm sure he was entertaining at the time. I didn't watch wrestling around the time he was around. He has colorful attire, but at the same time, I just don't see people going, man, I wish my Mabel had Mo next to him, because we didn't have the right tag team Mo to go along, or Mabel to go along with it. So I just don't see him leaving the void. Same with Little Beaver. All the little guys. No offense, except for Dink. I just don't see these guys to find the rights to them, to sign rights to them, to negotiate with them. I'm fairly certain all these little guys, maybe even Dink, might have passed away by now. So I just don't see that being the case. Same with Lord Littlebrook. I mean, I'm sure these are great, cool guys. It was an interesting time when little guy wrestling was taken serious, but at the same time as a comedic joke, as a comedy act. So more power to him. I mean, to get in the ring and take bumps, hurts for a normal sized guy. I can't imagine what happens for a little guy. Especially, I think one of them, it was either, I don't think it was Littlebrook, it was either, I think it was a Haiti kid got slammed by King Kong or splashed on him. So, and speaking of which, the Haiti kid, besides being, I think, beat up by King Kong Bundy, his only other contribution to WWF was basically getting his head shaved while Piper and Bob Orton held him down in a very kind of racial overtone thing. It was two white guys kind of holding down a black man, shaving off his fro, if you will, as he's screaming for help and whatnot. It's like, I just don't see WWE wanting to really highlight any of that kind of stuff or have people go back and look at that kind of stuff. Now, Tama the Islanders, I don't see it happening. We don't even have a Haku Mattel Elite yet. We still have Jack Pacific Haku, but that was during his Andre and kind of King Haku look. Not really. I don't see them going towards this era. If they did sign Haku slash Ming, I could see it being more of a um, what is that called? Dungeon of Doom Haku, or sorry Ming, or even his yeah, the Dungeon Doom Ming, or even if they did his 2001 return, if they even did his King Haku look, I just don't see them going towards that era, which means I don't see them wanting to go and look up Tama and try to go, oh, let's make the Islanders. That's just not on their top of their list. So I just don't see them leaving the void. Danny Spivey. Now, I don't see Danny Spivey leaving the void. Maybe is Waylon Mercy one day. I know that we're going into the new gen um, focus right now. I mean, obviously, in a couple of years, things are going to change because most of the kids are going to start grew up during the Ruthless Aggression era, and that's when Mattel is going to probably want to start signing guys from that era. So right now we're in the new gen era because most of us from the new gen are in our late 20s, early 30s, and that's the demographic they want to go after because that's the ones who have this the most disposable income right now. The ones who've got families and have good paying jobs, the ones who've got no family and they just got man-child money kind of thing coming through. Maybe they have trust funds or they've invested in Dogecoin or whatever it may be. Point is, I don't see Dan Spivey in this iteration at all being sent out of the void. Maybe a Waylon Mercy one day, but as is right now, I just don't see it. And finally, Koji Katao. Now, I don't see him ever getting out of there. I don't see a desire for him. I know that his most famous moment was no selling with Earthquake and flipping off Earthquake and saying wrestling's fake in front of a live crowd. So pretty sure he blacklisted himself from wrestling. And so I know he was at WrestleMania 7, but he doesn't have a figure, doesn't even have a Japan figure. Very hated, I believe, among the wrestling scene. As far as like never wanted to work with that guy because he just basically exposed the business. So yeah, as somebody must have maybe order a custom of them. You might see one in passing of a custom, but I'm not seeing anybody in a clamor. I don't see Zombie Sailor toys or the Uncensored line or T'Challa toys. I don't see anybody going really after him. Bull Nakano, yes. Sabu, yes. Bandito, yes. People who have contributed to the wrestling world. They're unsung, they're unknown. Well, they're not unknown, but they're not nearly as big as they once were. Maybe they were overlooked by WWF for being too small. I don't see Koji Katao just because of the simple fact that he pissed off the wrong people at the wrong time. And that's the end of the list. So who gets out? Well, Raymond Rougeau, Dink, Pedro Morales, and Leilani Kai. I think 4 people have a good shot of getting out of this and actually getting an action figure and messing up all my stats. But that's okay. That's what's going to happen. If people do get out, I will update over time. I'm not gonna do it right away. I think maybe after I finish up the first 37 series. By then it'll probably be 38 because I'll have WrestleMania 38 will come along by then. Then if people have gotten made, I'll go back and maybe just do like a redacted or an updated version. Go, hey, look, it's now changed a little the numbers. Not a whole redo video, but a updated video. But a lot of people are still going to stay in. I don't see Dan. I don't see Koji, Tama, Little Beaver, Mo, Lord Littlebrook. All these people, I just don't see them. I mean, as much as it pains me, I want to see a rugged Ronnie Garvin. And I could use guys like David Sammartino or Jim Powers or Sam Houston as good jobber material. I mean, obviously you need jobbers. You need, lower card talent to feed to the bigger card, especially if you're trying to recreate old school wrestling where it's like the famous guys beat up the jobbers to the stars, and then the jobbers to the stars got to beat up the actual jobbers. I'm not going to say there were jobbers, but they were the jobbers to the stars. So again, but this is not 100% accurate. Don't think it is. As always, life is unpredictable. So this is no way. I'm going to say this right now. I'm not making or I have some inside track to know who's going to get made. This is just my opinion. If you like it, cool. If you don't, feel free to leave a comment below if you agree or disagree. Thank you for watching. I want you to leave a comment, ring the bell, subscribe, please. It I'm hoping that I get people here and there. I'm hoping this takes off. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to make a Patreon out of this. I'm not trying to make this, my next ticket to multi-millions or anything like that. I'm not trying to be Paul Logan, none of that stuff. But I only get better with suggestions, and the redone series was redone because people suggested and told me what to work on, or hey, do this instead, streamline it. So next time you see The Void video series will be when it's after WrestleMania 11 to 20 edition. We'll discuss who stays in and who gets out and who maybe have gotten out while we were waiting. We'll find out.